On today's show, Nate McMillan is gone from the Atlanta Hawks. Do they have a Trae Young problem? And then, who has the most pressure to win an NBA title this year? Will, on today's Locked On NBA. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On NBA your first listen each and every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen and watch every day and to comment anything below. Let us know, who do you think has the most pressure to win a title this season? Players, teams. We'll go through it a little bit later when we do our Count It Up segment, where we'll count up who has the most pressure to win. And joining me, as always, on a Thursday, host of Locked On Bulls. What you got for me, Pat the Designer?
Thank God we don't have to watch any more All-Star games.
Just the one. Every 365, just the one. And every like God. 2 years, it's pretty good. And then then the other 2 years, it's pretty bad. No more All-Star. We're looking forward to the second part of the season. It's second half if you count the playoffs. If you're looking at the NBA as a whole, the amount of time.
It's so weird. It's like, it feels so much later in the year, dog. It's like, did there used to be like 11 games after the All-Star game? Like
October to now, and then now till June, like the beginning of June. That's the same amount of time, right? Just about.
Yeah,
that makes it. If you're making the finals, it's the second, back half of the year, but.
It helps 2 teams a year.
Yeah, it counts for them. For like the Hornets, yep. It's gonna be done soon. You got 20 something.
Get ready for vacation.
You got 20 something games left, and it's 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Like let's go. We're gonna talk about the Nate McMillan firing today, and if the Hawks have a Trae Young problem, they're firing another coach in 2 years, basically. And then we'll talk about the things we're most interested in for the rest of the season. 20, 25 games left for each team. So we'll talk about KD on the Suns, Kyrie on the Mavs. What do we want to see from those guys and those teams for the rest of the season? And then, of course, like I said, we'll count it up with who has the most pressure to win a title. We'll go 0 to 5 on it, and then we'll see who has the most pressure. So let's start here. The Atlanta Hawks decided to fire Nate McMillan right after the All-Star. They're like, all right, we'll give him All-Star. But then as soon as All-Star's done, we're done with Nate McMillan. We're out of the Nate McMillan business. He has been fired by the Atlanta Hawks. He had coached for a couple of seasons there. He took over for Lloyd Pierce back in 2021, and they went 27-11 at the end of that season, and then went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Then they were kind of disappointing last year, just above 500, out in the first round. Then this year, they've been very disappointing. Add DeJounte Murray. They're like a game under 500 right now. They're not really a team to be reckoned with at all. Like, I don't know who's reckoning with them at this point. And so you've had the stories about Trae Young clashing with Nate McMillan. You had John Collins today with a quote that said, quote, "Nate is suited more for guys that are older. We need guidance. We need a different kind of guidance." That was a quote from John Collins today, who the Hawks have been trying to trade for forever. But you look at this Nate McMillan firing, and Pat, tell me this. What's the number one reason Nate McMillan doesn't have a job anymore for the Hawks?
The number one reason is that he didn't win enough games. I mean, at the end of the day, right, like it's going to come down to production. It's going to come down to how the team is performing around you. It's going to come down to, kind of at a certain point, right? Like we've seen coaches, I know, especially being a Chicago fan, I've seen coaches that literally just said, hey, they're not listening anymore. They don't want to hear my voice. They've tuned me out. Let me get up out of here. And that was Scott Skiles. Big love to the former Bulls coach, Scott Skiles.
Most assists in one game in NBA history.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But with the weirdest picture to go next to it, dog. When you see that picture, it scares you. Don't show it to your children. But I just think that, like there was too many differences and too many disagreements happening at one time over a 2-year span. By the way, it's not like this is brand new stuff. This is just the final recourse of all the stuff that we've seen happen with this Hawks team over a 2-year span. Last year, I can give you a little bit of leeway. They went through a lot of COVID issues, a lot of lost a lot of bodies during the season and stuff like that, tried to get it back late. But coming into this season, you thought you were going to see a lot more. A lot of people thought they were going to see a lot more. And you just didn't see it. It never looked like at any point it was going to work.
This Hawks team was weird to me. Some games they look really good, but most games they would just look oh man, what is happening with this Hawks team? And I think, to me, yes, it's not winning enough games. But to me, I think the number one reason why he's gone is because of Trae Young for various reasons. But I think Trae Young's the reason why he's gone. And that's why I asked the question, do the Hawks have a Trae Young problem? Because he has clashed with Nate McMillan. He clashed with Lloyd Pierce before that. Those guys are both gone in the span of 27 months. So just about 2 years, those two guys are gone. He's gone through two different coaches now. And John Collins, in that interview where they talked about, we need a different kind of guidance, he also mentioned that we need accountability on this team for star players and for others. And he didn't name names, but I think we know who he's talking about there. Like that's the name drop without the name drop. And so I'm just looking at, okay, how do they integrate DeJounte Murray and Trae Young? What kind of coach was going to come in there and make that happen? And then you go look at Trae Young's numbers, and I think there's one number that tells me about what Trae Young and how him and DeJounte Murray have fit this year. Trae Young last year, he took, what did he take? He took 6 threes a game. Or something like that. No, okay, I got it now. he takes 6.5 threes this year, 8 threes last year. So he's taking less threes this year, and he's taking 1.4 catch and shoot threes a game. Last year, he took 1 catch and shoot 3 per game. To add a playmaker like DeJounte Murray, to take some of the scoring load and the playmaking load off of Trae Young, to make this offense work more together, and for Trae Young to only be taking 1.5 catch and shoot threes, just hasn't adapted his game. And where is that on coaching? But where is that on Trae Young? Was Nate McMillan asking him to do that? Was Trae Young doing that? I think that number kind of tells us how inflexible it has been to coach Trae Young to try to create an offense around him. And then you get the Instagram post today from Trae Young. One more thing we can never get back: time. Don't waste it. And he's wearing a Steve Nash Phoenix Suns jersey today. This was going to be one of my count it up. Is that more so him just loving Steve Nash, or is he trying to send a signal I want this guy to be my coach?
I'm gonna be honest with you. You want Steve Nash to be a coach? You're asking for your way out. I don't know.
But he's already sent out 2 coaches.
Yeah,
does he know what he wants as a coach?
That's not a good start. Probably not, right? But I think here's the thing, right? There's a little bit of accountability on everybody, but I think that quote from John Collins says a lot about probably the mindset of the players that you have there. At the end of the day, I've seen good players take mid-level coaches a long way in the NBA. I'm not saying Nate McMillan was coming out here and giving you his best Phil Jackson. I think there's some faults coming out on Nate McMillan as well, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be self-motivated. You shouldn't be looking to your head coach to hold you accountable. You shouldn't be looking to your head coach to tell you how you should get your fire up for a game, how to go into a game and play like a professional basketball player. You're making a lot of money to go out there and play professional basketball. You should have the ability to go out there and do it on your own merit, and your coach puts you in the right position for that. Again, I think there's a place for Nate McMillan, but I think there's 2 things at play here that you have to talk about. I think the mentality of this team is not in the right place based on that statement. And I think the other thing is just roster construction as a whole. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young sounds great together, but I told y'all coming into this season, I need to see it, because you are taking a player that has played his entire life on ball and telling him, go over there, stand and shoot when DeJounte Murray passes you the ball. And you can tell based on the numbers, right? One, he's in weird positions when he's shooting because the shooting percentages have dropped woefully this year. He's shooting 32% from the 3-point line this year. He was shooting 35% last year. And or for his career, I should say. And you also see that he's literally, like you were talking about, the catch and shoot opportunities. He's catching. And then he's like, okay, now I'll set myself up. So you're not actually running an offense that's getting the open shot. You're running an offense that is his turn, my turn, his turn, my turn. And again, I've said this about the Bulls. I'll say this about every team that runs an offense like that. That offense worked in 2005. It is 2023. That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, they're scoring 114 points per 100 possessions per cleaning the glass, which would have been a good offense like 2 or 3 years ago, even 5 years ago, but it's 17th in the NBA now, right? It just hasn't produced enough, and everybody's got to be firing on all cylinders in order to produce like that. The names that have been mentioned for the Hawks, Quinn Snyder is the only one that's, according to Mark Stein, been publicly mentioned by the Hawks as somebody that they're looking at. Does Quinn Snyder change this for the Hawks?
I don't think so. I think you have to look at your personnel. I think you have to look at the players that you have in the building. Now, could he make it? Could he improve it? Right? Could he get it to a better position? Sure. Why not? Right? Like I don't know if I view Quinn Snyder as this dominant head coach in the NBA either. Right? But I think that he might come with a little bit of a newer style offense. I think that Clint Capella's scoring will go way down because we saw, just in Utah that the big man kind of was just out there for the defensive end of the basketball. But I think to me, you need to really be looking at the players that you have on your team, and you need to assess, hey, are these the guys that are actually going to move us forward? I love what the young guy, what's his name, AJ Griffin.
Yeah.
I love what he's bringing on the court. I think that had they have actually just waited on that dynamic of him coming in, you might have been able to develop something that you were able to use a little bit more. I think the most interesting thing right now is Trae Young the best fit for this team, or is DeJounte Murray the best fit for this team out of the two of them? Because I don't think that them together is the best fit. And if you take a look, like you were talking about Trae Young's Instagram, it don't say nothing. Now, I'm not going to say I stalked Trae Young's Instagram and I know what it said yesterday, but his Instagram right now says #athlete, number 11.
He's an athlete.
He also wears number 11.
Trae,
but no Atlanta Hawks in there.
Trae Young also did not speak to the media today. A Hawks official told Atlanta media that he had to boogie, so he did not stay. He had to boogie. That was the official quote from them. That he did not.
Now, when you make that statement with Trae Young's hair, what kind of boogie we talking about? We talking about like a Bruno Mars?
Yo.
We talking about I'm just saying. I'm just asking.
Coming up, let's talk about what we want to see from KD on the Suns and Kyrie on the Mavs for the rest of the season. Talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel is your number one sportsbook. It's the number one sportsbook in America. It's also the Locked On's official sportsbook partner. Go check out, see what they have available. Most improved. This one's interesting to me. There's two guys right at the top. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, plus 135. Larry Markkinen, plus 135. If you're betting right now, if you're putting some money on it, Pat, who are you taking for most improved?
I'd go Lowry. If he stays healthy, I'd go Lowry 100% because he went from a player that was a role player in Cleveland to being able to be the focal point of a team in Utah. So I'd go Lowry.
Jalen Brunson is plus 350, so right behind those guys. And then way down the road here is Tyrese Halliburton plus 5,000. So it's really a three-player race right now. SGA's kind of gone from like good player to top 15 player, top 10 player maybe in the NBA. He's been incredible this year. Larry Markkinen has gone from like semi-role player to all-star, which is like just a very different leap there.
Huge
so
jump.
You can get them all at FanDuel. Go check out FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, Pat, let's talk about two teams that are the most interesting. We're going to do this until the Nate McMillan firing happening. The most interesting to us for the rest of the season. It's Kevin Durant on the Suns and Kyrie Irving on the Dallas Mavericks. Let's start with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is reportedly going to make his debut for the Phoenix Suns on Wednesday. So a week from when we're recording this right now on the 22nd. So a week from now against the Charlotte Hornets. What do you want to see from Kevin Durant on the Suns for the rest of the season? What do they have to prove to you?
I just want to see what role he's going to take on his team, right? I want to know is he going to be the guy that's on ball 90% of the time, who's the focal point of this offense? Is that still going to be Devin Booker? Or is he going to be the guy that plays off ball and is doing all the things that we just said Trae Young couldn't, right? And still in either role, by the way, he's the best dual threat player as far as being able to play on ball and off ball. Like literally, no matter what role you put him in, 30 is coming your way. So I really just want to see kind of how Monty Williams is going to use Kevin Durant in this offense. And then I think as a whole, right, like you want to see, okay, what is the rest of this team going to be able to do, right? We talked about how they didn't trade much off of this bench, but that doesn't tell me much about this bench because this bench was incredibly thin before that. How much is Kevin Durant going to have to play based on the guys that are standing behind him? Jay Crowder ain't standing behind you no more. He's out in Milwaukee now. So how much is Kevin Durant going to have to go out there?
He wasn't standing behind him during the season.
Yeah, this is facts. Yeah, I mean, like I just think that that's going to be the biggest tell, right? Because a lot of times the part that people underestimate is when you get to the playoffs, how tired you are. My favorite team, and they messed it up by trading for James Harden, was Philly, because they had Andre Drummond sitting behind Joel Embiid, and you would look and you'd be like, is Joel hurt? Where's Joel? And it'd be like 15 minutes real time would go by, and then Joel Embiid would come back in. that rest is key when you're trying to make deep playoff runs. That's the one thing about the Warriors that you love.
You have two incredible catch and shoot shot makers with Devin Booker and with Kevin Durant. I think that there's no question about that. To me, with Kevin Durant on the Suns, I'm honestly still looking at Chris Paul. This is his best shot to win a title.
Yes.
We'll maybe talk about him a little bit later. With some pressure.
Humble plug.
With some pressure. But I'm looking at him because where does he fit into all this? How good does he look? Do they still put the ball in his hands? Does he still facilitate? Can he still be the point guard that makes this all work? It's going to be pretty easy to make it all work with Ayton rolling, with Kevin Durant on one side and Booker on the other, and I don't know, Torrey Craig just hanging out wherever he is, Landry Shamet just around, like whoever else, just Josh Okogie just like hanging out, Terrence Ross just like, hey, I'm here, I'll take a shot. Playoffs, we're back in the playoffs. I'm still looking at Chris Paul. Like that's still the thing. That's still the
playoffs.
I knew that.
You kidding me? Playoffs.
I knew you'd have that.
I just hope we can win a game.
Hey man, I root for the Bulls, bro.
I was gonna say, you never hear the end of that one. I just want to win a game.
I just hope we can win a game. No, with the Bulls, I was not cutting that. That's all my hope was.
I've seen this play before. We've seen this with Kevin Durant, where he's been on the Warriors. He's played well for the Nets. He's played well on the Thunder with stars. He's played great with stars. There is no doubt in my mind he's going to play great with these guys. It just depends on the guys that they already have. What else can they bring to the table? If KD and Booker have the ball in their hands a bunch, what am I getting from Ayton? What am I getting from Chris Paul? And is it enough? Those are the big questions, I think.
Yeah, I think the one thing you have to look at is what role is Monty Williams going to use DeAndre Ayton in, and how does he fit into it, right? Like he's your – we going third? We giving him third just because Chris Paul's old? Is he your third option on this team or your fourth option?
He's the fourth.
And that's how I feel about it, right? He's your fourth option. So now you're trying to figure out, okay, what can he give you? And if this is the DeAndre Ayton that in the regular season, I love what I'm seeing from Ayton. He's going out there balling every night, killing the game. Love it. Which DeAndre Ayton's going to show up when it's crunch time? Because I watched DeAndre Ayton get shut down by a dude named Maxi Kleber. I'm letting that breathe. I'm just letting that breathe. Like, just let that sink in. Maxi Kleber's how tall? 6'8"?
He's like 6'10". Come on.
See, we're giving him some inches.
He's 6'10" in Germany. 6'10" with shoes on.
Metric? Is he metric 6'10"? Is that what you're saying?
two meters and then some, right? Like wasn't it?
But yeah, I think those are some major questions. How does Ayton fit into all of this? I think Chris Paul's going to be Chris Paul. He's got the easiest job in the world.
What does that mean? What does that mean now, though? What is Chris Paul going to be Chris Paul mean now? That's the big question.
I think the thing is, right, it means I have to pick between giving the ball to Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. Hey. Oh, by the way, if y'all just stand out there and try to guard them to death, I can just drop it into this large 7-foot dude that can turn around and dunk.
Their offense is going to be amazing. Like, I honestly think it's the defense with Chris Paul that I'm worried about the most. It's like, all right,
he's going to get cooked.
Well, can he and Booker and all of a sudden they lose Mikal Bridges? What does that do to their offense? They have Ayton, who's a great backline defender, but also, do you have to play defense in the West to win? Like we're about to talk about the Mavs, and we kind of have the same questions about them too. Do you have to play the Nets or the Nuggets? Are they playing? Or who's playing defense in the West?
That's the real question, especially at the top.
Let's talk about Kyrie on the Mavs. What do we want to see from Kyrie and the Mavs for the rest of the season? I'll start here on this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The Mavs have the easiest schedule in the NBA, according to record. They have 22 games left, and it's the easiest one. They play the Spurs 3 times. They play the Hornets twice. They play, your Chicago Bulls once. They play the Hawks. They play the Grizzlies 3 times, which is not an easy game, but they can make up some ground here if they're able to. But the thing that we want to see in this is they're going to have to do some experimenting with Kyrie and Luka. I think the fit is going to be really great. But what we've seen in just the 2 games, we've only seen 2 games these 2 guys play together. There has been a complete difference in style from these 2 guys. The Mavericks with Luka Doncic are playing the slowest pace in the NBA. So slow. They're playing incredibly slow, the slowest. They recently just got passed up by the Cavs as the slowest in the NBA, because Kyrie Irving, on the other hand, wants to play this fast, up-tempo, move the ball. He doesn't start with the ball. Somebody else starts with the ball, and then everybody touches the ball, all that, which is what a little bit of what the Mavericks have needed. They've just done that offense where it's just Luka with the ball. It's just Brunson with the ball. It's just Dinwiddie with the ball. Whoever else. They've run that offense because it's worked for them, and they haven't really had a bunch of playmakers or any playmakers really around Luka. Now they do. Now they have Kyrie. And Kyrie's promoting this ball movement, up-tempo style that Luka's going to have to get used to. He'll get there, but he's going to have to get used to that. Whereas Luka's played this plotting, ISO-heavy offense. And I think trying to figure out the difference in play styles between those two things is going to be what I need to see the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on all of that. And I think the biggest thing for me that I want to see is what offense can Jason Kidd come up with that accentuates both of these guys, because it's like you said, right? Like it's very like whoever's got the ball in their hand, you try to get to the bucket, and it's usually just Luka with the ball in his hand. But now you have a guy who can play completely off ball, and like I talked about Kevin Durant as an off ball guy. Kyrie Irving's the other guy in the NBA outside of Steph Curry that is really good at being able to fit whatever role you need him in. How's Jason Kidd going to use him? Because who's better suited to be the catch and shoot guy? Is it going to be Luka? Is it going to be Kyrie? How are you going to use them moving the ball around? How are you going to use them just rotating, right? Like I think that I look at this Mavs team right now, and the biggest thing that I notice is like it's like a one screen, do what you do kind of offense.
But the offense has been, when you say Jason Kidd coming up with an offense, that's what it's been this year. So It's been really refreshing watching a Kyrie Irving, Luka offense, or even just Kyrie and whoever else is on the court, because they run other stuff. They've been using Kyrie in different ways, and they've been like Luka's playing off ball. Now Luka has not been great off ball this in his career. He does not catch and shoot threes very well. He has to take a step back when he takes a catch and shoot three sometimes to get in that rhythm. But that's something he's gonna have to work on, because Kyrie Irving with the ball in his hands is electric. That Minnesota game before the All-Star break, 26 points in the fourth quarter. He's just going off, and the Timberwolves are trying hard. They're trying hard to stop him, and they couldn't. That's what unlocks with this offense with Luka and Kyrie. Very similar to what we're going to see from Kevin Durant, Devin Booker and the Suns. They'll be able to run that explosive offense. The same with the Mavs now.
If I'm Jason Kidd, I take a look at how they get Steph and Curry open in Golden State, and I run that same stuff for Kyrie.
You use Luka as the Draymond?
I would essentially, but like a Draymond that can go off and score 50 on you as well. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason is because Luka is a good passer. Luka would be able to find Kyrie. Also, he takes so much attention on the offense as well. It's not like Luka's out there taking easy shots, right? Like you're sending 2-3 guys at Luka, and he's just still knocking down the shot. So I think that you figure out how to get Kyrie Irving open on those catch and shoot opportunities. Kyrie Irving is one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA as well. He will be able to make that team's offense work. Now, defensively, I have no answers for you. I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, defensively for the Mavericks, it's Reggie Bullock, Josh Green, Maxi Kleber. If Maxi Kleber, he should be back from his injury next couple of games after the All-Star. He had hamstring surgery, but he's a big part of their defense. If you can get that switching, like everybody rotates defense down with those three guys, Bullock, Josh Green, and Maxi Kleber, if that can become at least a solid defense, they're going to outscore anybody else, right? Like who's going to outscore Luka and Kyrie? I mean, maybe the Suns. That's like the only other team you're looking at.
I'd say Suns.
Nuggets.
I'd say if the Clippers ever get it together, if the Nuggets ever get healthy, they can outscore the entire league.
Right. Yeah.
Anytime Michael Porter Jr. steps on the court, it's like, what's Michael Porter doing tonight? Oh, he's got 40. In what quarter? The second. Why?
Coming up, let's play who has the most pressure on them to win a title in. Count it up. Talk about that coming up. All right, Pat, we're doing a different version of Count It Up today. We're going to count up the players and teams that have the most pressure on them to win a title this season. Count it up, count it up, count it up, count it. I'm going to give you a name, and you're going to give me a scale of 0, they have no pressure on them, or 5, they have all the pressure in the world, and if they don't, it's a disaster.
Let's do it.
The Los Angeles Clippers of Anaheim.
That is a 5, my good sir.
Complete.
That is a 5. The Clippers, I know we don't talk about them as much, but you are load managing this entire team the entire season just to get to the playoffs. You have Kyrie. You have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, who, when they play together, finally actually look pretty good as a duo together. It doesn't feel like that you go, I go kind of offense. They actually look like they got something working. You've added Russell Westbrook to it. You had Norman Powell already. So now I'm just sitting here and I'm like, okay, Y'all got all these pieces on here. Y'all one of the deepest teams in the NBA. What are you going to do with it? That is a 5. And we're in year what of this now? Are we in year 4 of this?
They have one more guaranteed year of Kawhi and Paul George on the books. One more. Next year is the only guaranteed year. That the year after that, they have player options. And you're getting to, like, Paul George and Kawhi are like 31, 32. Like, they're getting to the back half of their prime right now. Kawhi has been injured a ton. Paul George has had a ton of injuries.
Yep.
And yeah, I think they have. It's definitely a 5 for me. If they don't win the title this year, like imagine if they went at right now, the 4-5 series would be the Suns and the Clippers. I don't think it ends that way because everything in the West is so like tight right now. But imagine one of those teams losing in the first round, and imagine it being the Clippers. Like,
and I think here's the thing, right? We talked about who's gonna be able to just go out there and outscore everybody. The Clippers can outscore you, but they also have 2 of the best two-way players in the NBA on their team, so they'll be able to play defense pretty much against anybody in the West. I mean, if you talk about Kawhi Leonard's guarding Kevin Durant, Paul George is guarding Devin Booker. Okay, I got to deal with Chris Paul. See, hopefully he doesn't go off, and it's a long shot. Haven't seen it in a while, but Russ is pretty good against Chris defensively. Actually,
Clippers offense has really struggled this year, but if Kawhi's right, they can be really good.
Yeah.
The Denver Nuggets of Colorado, 0-5.
Count it up.
I'm gonna say it's a 3. And I'm leaning heavily. All 3 are on Nikola Jokic because he's probably about to win his 3rd straight MVP. And what do you have to show for it outside of regular season? I'm all for regular season accolades. I believe that he is the best player in the NBA right now. What he's doing, facilitating, rebounding, and scoring is ridiculous. But at a certain point, now we start to have that conversation of, okay, Carmelo Anthony was one of the best offensive players in the NBA, and he never got out. We started to have that conversation we had around LeBron before he went to Miami and won his first title, right? Like, hey, you're doing all this stuff in the regular season, but what does that mean in the playoffs? I think that there's a ton of pressure. There's a ton of pressure on Denver to win, but it's not as much because there's so many injuries on that team that you kind of have. It's like the pressure's on Jokic and the organization more than the team that they've constructed.
You put him a 3. Give me a 4. Give me a 4 for pressure. It's not all the way 5, and it's not all the way 5 because they have time, I think. Like, the injuries and stuff is definitely a thing, and I'll talk about that in a second. But Jokic is 27, Murray's 25, Porter's 24, Aaron Gordon's 27, KCP's 29. Like, the only old player on their team is Uncle Jeff Green, who's dunking on everybody.
I love that. That's all he's got left. Like, he's not great at anything
he's
anymore.
He's playing fine, but he's sure dunking on guys.
But he's just still like, I can still out jump you.
He will. It's not like these guys are aging pieces at this point. However, it is a 4 because of the MVP thing with Jokic, which do we know if he cares about that at all? I don't know if he cares about any of that stuff at all. But this is one of their best. This is the best chance they've ever had with this core, right? You look at last year, the injuries. Now they've got guys back. The West is kind of a mess. You got this new Suns team, this new looking Mavs team, this, who else? Who else are you, like those Warriors team that's faltering and dealing with injuries? You have the Grizzlies that are all of a sudden going on this little like slump here. This is their best chance. So for me, it's a 4 because if you don't win the title this year, then it will be looked at it as a disappointment. It's not like it's title or bust, but it's title or very disappointed.
I think it's title or we're gonna have to start adjusting some of the pieces that are on this team.
I don't think so. Like, unless they get really, really blown out, their pieces are kind of it. Like they're really locked into these guys. The Jokic
be locked into Jamal Murray, but
the Michael Porter
Jamal
Jr.
Murray ain't locked in on the court.
The Porter Jr. one is the one piece I think that you look at because Defensively, they need to take a step up, and they already are.
Because of how much money you paid him out of nowhere.
Yeah, right. They're paying him $31 million this year, $33 next year, $36 the next year. The Phoenix Suns, we just talked about them. Count it up. 0 to 5. How much pressure do they have to win a title?
That's a 5 on them as well. It's
Complete.
a 5 on them. I think their window's more open now. But it's a 5 on them because of what, again, a specific player, because of what falls on Chris Paul's shoulders. There's a legacy making or breaking opportunity here for Chris Paul to come away with an NBA championship. And if not, right, like what's going to be the conversation? Wow, Chris Paul got a chance to play with a lot of really good pieces and he never got it done.
This is the legacy with Chris Paul, though. I think this is Gary Payton winning with the Lakers if they had won in 2004. Right.
Well, I talked about Gary. I did use Gary Payton, but I said with the Miami Heat, right? Like because he did win. I
think that's a little past where Chris Paul is right now. But Gary Payton with the Lakers in 2004 was still good.
Yeah.
Chris Paul. This team is a 5 to me completely because Chris Paul's almost 38 years old. He'll be 38 going into next season.
Yep.
KD is 35 years old this year.
Yep.
We know his game's going to age really well, but he's on the books for a bunch of money. The Suns, with the new owner, Matt Ishbia, $50 million luxury tax bill this year. And it's not going to get any better next year where they have all these guys still under contract. They have to bring in new guys to fill out the rest of the roster. It's a 5 every year for them because they've added Kevin Durant. It just is.
No, facts. And it's the window that there realistically is. It's the concern on how long is KD going to be healthy, right? He's had a couple of injuries. He's starting to have the injuries kind of pile up on him over the last couple of seasons. It's about, Chris Paul's age. His age is backed up against the wall. Outside of that, right, like Devin Booker, you feel good about long-term. Yeah. DeAndre Ayton, you feel good about long-term. But the thing is, this iteration
he signed with a different team last offseason. Do we feel good about DeAndre Ayton long-term?
That's true. I don't know.
He's going to be able to be traded soon.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how the playoffs go for him this year.
Let's do some rapid fire ones. We'll go back and forth like one sentence each. The Philadelphia 76ers.
Count it up. 5. James Harden has broken up 2 teams to get there. Might as well.
James Harden, the exact same. 5. It's the same story as Chris Paul, except for maybe on a different level. This is James Harden's best chance to win a title. Plus, you got the Doc Rivers thing. Plus, Joel Embiid, he's not been to a conference finals, right? So
a lot of destruction on the way. Plus, you've missed a lot with that team to get here. So you could have had B.I., Tatum, and one more. You missed a lot with this team.
We can't start doing Sixers what ifs. We'll start going back to the Nerlens Noel Drew Holiday trade. Like imagine if they didn't make that trade. How far back can we go?
The 30 for 30 on misses would be great. What if I told you?
What if I told you? The reigning champion Golden State Warriors. Count it
up. That's a good one. I'm gonna give them a 4.
Wow,
because of how poorly they've played this season. It's just been a lot of even when they were all healthy, right? Like I know the injuries have come into play, but I'm giving it a hot because they've been almost a bad basketball team at times this year. And so it's kind of like if you're Joe Lacob, I don't think you go into this like we're gonna break this team up, but I think you're looking at some of the key names on this team, and you're like, hey, but y'all lost every game, not here.
Yeah, this is a 3 to me. It's not all the way up there. I was waffling between 2 and 3. It's a 3 because they do have some pressure because the clock is ticking on these guys. The Milwaukee Bucks. Count it up.
Bucks to me is a 2. I don't think there's as much pressure.
Let me talk you into 3.
Go ahead.
Let me talk you into 3, or let me talk you into 4.
Okay, let's go.
Let me take that.
We almost 4 nuclear.
Let me talk you into 5. No, I'm just kidding. I'm stopping at 4. They've already won a title, so there's not 5. It's not some of these other teams that haven't won one yet.
Yeah.
But Chris Middleton, 31 years old. Mm-hmm. He's got a player option at the end of this year. Mm-hmm. Drew Holiday, almost 33 years old. Mm-hmm. Brook Lopez, almost 35 years old. He's an unrestricted free agent. So you got some aging pieces around Giannis all of a sudden. They also probably have one of the best chances to win the title because of the mess out west and because if you're healthy against the Celtics team, don't you feel better about that team? If you're, healthy against the Sixers and Cavs, like the Nets all of a sudden broke up, like you're looking at a path to the Eastern Conference Finals kind of easily this year. And so I think this is a really great chance for them and the aging roster.
I think all those things, I agree with how they factor in, but I think the thing is, right, like you still got a Giannis, and that's the most important piece of all of this. And as long as you have a Giannis, you could put pieces around a Giannis for it to work. I think one thing to me,
they say that about Luka.
Well, they don't build a wall.
Can't just put any pieces around that.
They don't build a wall to stop Luka though, so it's a little different. But
no, they only throw triple teams at him.
That's not a wall. That's not all 5 people.
It's not a wall. It's a 23-19.
They throw a coach out there to try and stop Giannis. You know what I mean? No, but I think the main thing for me with it being the 2 is that Milwaukee's very loyal to the players that they have. They're gonna be here next year. There's no chance that they're going to be like, wow, we lost this, so now we have to break this team up. I think they want to win. I think they're going to go for it. I'm still picking them as my finals team if Chris Middleton ever can get back on the court. But
can we just get all of them at some point?
You know what I mean? But I just think that I don't think that 31 means the end of the road for some of these guys. After watching DeMar DeRozan, watching LeBron James, guys like that, there's a lot more players that are going to be able to play till 38, 30, 37.
For sure. It's just counting up for them. The age is starting to count up, especially Brooke Lopez, Drew Holiday, 33. Like that one's not too old, but there you go. Let us know in the comment section who has the most pressure to win a title, which teams. And thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA. Go check out the Locked On Bulls podcast, Locked On Mavs. Go check out. We have a Locked On daily podcast for every single team in the NBA. Find yours. Go check it out, guys. Thanks for listening to Locked On NBA.
Bye bye.
Boom.